Hello everyone, I'm Abhidi Sethi. I bagged the AIR of 22 in recently conducted November INICT 2024, and a lot of the credit of my success goes to the Btr Bootcamp, which I attended in September to October. So in the past few weeks, I've received a lot of queries, a lot of questions about how to study at the bootcamp. So now we'll be covering about your strategies, how you should utilize your days at the BTR Bootcamp. So we know the facility that is Vidya Jeevan will stay open from 7 a.m. to as late as 8 p.m. So you have approximately 13 hours to work as much as you can, push yourself as much as you can to achieve the maximum amount of study. So, how will a typical day at BTR Bootcamp look like? So, as we said, that you should try to reach as early as possible, that is by 7 a.m. Let's suppose you reach there and the class starts at 9 a.m. So, you have 2 hours ahead of you. And that study session I would like to call as HSS, that is Head Start Study Session. So, before everybody starts studying, if you get into that zone of solving PYQs, doing high yield topics in the morning itself, it pushes you a little ahead. So from 9 a.m. to let's suppose 3 p.m., you're studying with Zena ma'am herself. So at that time, you have to make sure you're giving maximum attention to the study. Then from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m., when nobody is watching, when Zena ma'am is not there to stay on your head that you're studying, and this is the time which everybody used to say, Ravi sir used to say, Apoor sir used to say that when Zainab ma'am goes away from the class, how much are you able to put yourself into in that period of time is the one which is going to gauge your amount of success. So that we have 2 sessions before the class, that is HHS session, that is Head Start study session. Then it is 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. That is now session when nobody is watching. How much are you able to study? Next, if you go through the BTR bootcamp schedule, you will find there are three type of days, right? There's a regular days, there are buffer days, and there are test days. On a regular day, how should you plan your day? If it is a regular day, I mean, there is only we there is a class that ZMM is going to take for a particular subject, okay, or a subject set, and you are supposed to listen to her, make selective notes, and that is how the day goes. So let's suppose it's a regular day. So what we discussed that 7 to 9 a.m. is HSS, that is Head Start study session. Then 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. will be study session with ma'am. And after ma'am ends her teaching, after that you should not take more than 30 to 45 minutes at a stretch for a lunch break, because if you take any longer time, you might not be able to come back to that zone of studying which you were already in. Okay, after that 45 minutes lunch break, when you're back, then 4 p.m. to 8 p.m., roughly I'm saying 4 p.m., it could be earlier also, it could be late also. Then you sit and start studying. Now, how do you have to study for that 4 to 8 p.m.? We'll discuss now. So now you have to start studying in slots of 30 minutes. This is something that Ravi sir told us, and it proved out to be very good tip. So when we used to study in the boot camp, very first boot camp, so after literally every 10 minutes, somebody or the other's alarm used to ring because everybody was trying to study in 30 minutes session. Now, what happens is when you restrict your time, that this is the amount of time you have to complete that particular task, your efficacy increases, the pressure on your mind increases, and the amount of focus that you put into that thing that you're reading, it also increases. So try to study in slots of 30 minutes during that 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. Why? Because at that time, you've put in a lot of energy already in doing the PYQs, in doing the studying along with ma'am. So you need a stressor to keep you going, and that could be the 30 minutes timer that's like a sword on your head that you have to keep studying. Right. So this is a slot of 30 minutes that you could do. And in that period of time, what should you do? So first of all, the most important thing that you should make a point that without doing this, you're not leaving the institute, you're not leaving that place, is active recall of the subject of the day. Like suppose today surgery was being taught, half of surgery had been taught, and you have to make it a point that the unannotated PDF which is shared by ma'am in the group, you must go through that unannotated PDF, try to say out the things out loud, try to fill in the blanks yourself. This might take time, but it is very effective, as ma'am has already explained in our videos. So, when should you do this? So research says that after reading something, if you revise it within 6 hours, it is very beneficial, right? So I would say that you should keep that active recall timing from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Just before you're going home, That is something that is the easiest task that you have to do. You just have to revise. It will give you some timing between the primary study and between the revision time, that some hours are there, and you're able to set a target for yourself at 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. I'm doing active recall. That's it. Now, that active recall can be done by either you alone if you're a lone wolf, or it can be done by a study partner, where one of you takes charge of one page, and it keeps going, right? So you can either do active recall of that you have to do active recall of that subject, of the subject of the day. Then next, we talked about the HHS, right? Head Start study session in the beginning. That comes from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. So I advise you to solve PYQs in that time. Why? Because it is a very you tend to be most productive during the early hours of the day. So if you do the most high yield thing, it is going to stick for longer. So if you're not able to complete the PYQs in the HHS session, then bring them to the now session, that is no one's watching session, right? So here you have to try to complete the PYQs. You can work on a selective high yield topics. Like for example, if I take my example, I used to find hypospadias topic in surgery very difficult. So this will be a good time after I have read through BTR to go back to my main notes, to go back to my original notes and see uh, that topic in much detail, right? Then for subjects you feel you're not very confident, but ideally you can do it for every subject. We also tried doing this, that you can give a subject-wise test. Because why you can do this? Because ma'am has given a very nice and a relaxed schedule where you can complete each and everything. So suppose ma'am has given 2 days for surgery. So last day of surgery, just to give closure to that subject, to have a sense of satisfaction, you can give a subject-wise test of 50 MCQs. Just give it in 40 minutes, try to review them in 50 minutes, and done. That subject is done and dusted for you. That is a subject-wise test. So now coming on to, you stayed in the facility till 8 p.m. Suppose you were there from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. So you were here for approximately 13 hours. So out of those 13 hours, even if you convince yourself, even if you worked for like 10 hours or 8 to 10 hours, it is amazing. So after 8 p.m., you have earned your passive study time, or you've earned the time to relax and take some break. So at that point, I would suggest you to do some walking, some exercise, just to keep your brain functioning and happy. And you can talk to your parents, must do, talk to your parents, talk to your friends, make new friends around you. And lastly, the most important thing is sleep early. Let me give you a timeline which I followed. I used to sleep maximum by 11:30, barring some days, so that you're able to get up early in the morning. So suppose if you sleep at 11 and you get up at 6, you get those 7 hours of sleep, which is must. You have to get 7 hours of sleep if you want your next day. You want 8 to 10 hours or more hours of productive studying the next day. You have to have those 7 to 8 hours of sleep, right? So sleep, I cannot stress enough. It's the best thing about bootcamp is it sets your circadian rhythm in that manner that you have to be there at class no matter what at 9 a.m. So and you have to be up and awake till 3 p.m. So for that, you need to have slept a good amount of time at night. So it sets your circadian rhythm in that way. So that is about the three things. And also, suppose if you want to study a bit more after 8 p.m., you've studied well and you're towards the end of the boot camp, you're towards in the middle, and you want to push yourself more, just 10 minutes more. So you can start watching BTR ENDs 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, and you can solve custom modules. I've also covered this part in one of the other videos as well. I'll put a link there. And for these are the things you can do for passive studying. Next, so these were the regular days. We divided into different hours. In the morning, we have Head Start study session, then we have studying with ma'am, and then we had the now session, no one's watching session. Then after 8 p.m., you can relax and do your passive studying. Next, coming on to the buffer days, the days when ma'am is not teaching you. How can you use those days to the best? Uh, you have to make it a point to reach the facility by earliest on those days as well. It's not that you're going to relax, no relaxing, only studying. So suppose you reach there by 7 to 8 a.m., right? And you're all your on your own, you just have your schedule to push yourself, to push you, right? So there are a lot of approaches that you can use on this day. I'm just going to enumerate a few. And this is please don't be rigid in choosing these things. Just see what works best for you and keep moving ahead. So you can either attempt a GT. on these buffer days, like I would advise you that in the initial months, try to attempt just one GT or maximum two GTs in a month. And now this time the GTs should be used as a timing tool, right? And for the later months, the GTs should be used as a learning tool. Just towards the end of your preparation, I think you should use GTs as a testing tool to just see where you are standing, where you are, how much prepared you are. So that is what about the GTs I would tell you. So if you're going to attempt the GTs, I would highly advise you to complete the review in the same day. Just don't do anything else. First, just complete that GT, give closure to that GT, and move ahead with your next day. Next, you have to complete the ENDs. So if I talk about me and Ritik, what we did before going to boot camp, we had only gone through 3.0 ENDs, not even those completely. So we made it a point that just before the test days would come or on the test days itself, we used to review the ENDs. Now, how you're supposed to review them? Uh, like ma'am has covered it in much detail. I'm just going to give a brief review of how I did. So I used to have my iPad and my phone. Either you can have that or you can have one of your friend's phone and your phone. In one device, open the unannotated PDF, and in the on the other device, you can open the annotated PDF with the answers marked. So just keep going through that question and see the answer if you're getting them correct or not. If you're getting any of those wrong, just take a picture or write it down and just see them before your next test, right? So it will reinforce any mistakes that you're going to make or any new concepts that you're learning, right? So the buffer days are also very important in a sense that any source which you've done before BTR, like suppose you're doing BTR for the first time, or if you're doing for the second time only, and you want to revise the previous source that you've already done. So I'm just given a lot of time for that as well. These buffer days you can use to either revise your rapid revision notes or the selective main notes that you've made. I would just advise you to just put a time limit for it and don't cross the time limit. Keep the time in check. Keep those 30 minutes targets in check. Right? You can also see those time-consuming topics which you will not be able to see in the regular days. You can keep them for the buffer days. Any topics which are left that you want to do. Then one more important thing I think you can also do is going through the BTR bonus and compiled modules of BTR. So when you do this, you'll get such a big satisfaction that you have completed BTR cover to cover. There's nothing that needs to be left in BTR, so that if you want to master it, you have to do these BTR bonus and compile modules as well. Just flip through the notes available in the app, and any new things you find, you can either write it down or just make a concept map in your mind, whatever works for you. And one more pro tip which I would like to give, like for people who will be staying away from the boot camp, or suppose when you don't feel like studying, you don't feel like reading, you can just passively listen to the INI CVT or NEET recall videos which are available on YouTube. Of any faculty, you can listen to them, and it is sure to give you new points which are high yield. This is something you do while eating food, while traveling, while trying to sleep. You can watch all these videos, and they're sure to help you. Next, coming on to the test days, I want to say that the buffer days and the test days are the most important days at BTR Bootcamp, because on regular days, most of the people will be able to study. But to be able to push yourself on those days when you're not being monitored, when you're not being compelled to study, are the test days and buffer days, because you're on your own. The only thing which is going to push you is your will to study, your will to succeed, right? So coming back to the test days. So test days are scheduled, like since there will be a lot of people, like about 500 plus people will be registering for the camp. And so they will divide you into certain slots to be appearing for your test, right? Let's suppose your slot is a later one. So what can you do till your time slot is reached? I would advise you not to solve a lot of MCQs on that day, just do passive reading to preserve your active brain space, to preserve your conscious brain space, right? So just flip through your choti copy, passive reading through your 2.0 notes. Why do you want to do that? To build a visual memory, and it really helps, right? See the mistakes which you made in ENDs, and that's it. Just do that till your exam comes. Be in a very chill mode so that you're not stressed. It's okay if you're not able to review whole of the subjects, it's fine. You just have to give your best. Just try to flip through the pages, and that's it. And after the test, no matter how the test went, just give yourself 30 to 45 minutes break, have some food, talk with people, and chill out. And then when you're in a better state of mind, come back and start studying again. And I would say that for the buffer days, it's nothing special. You can use everything that you did on buffer days, that is the same thing you can do for test days as well. So to end, I would like to say that it is often the small steps and not the giant leaps that bring about the most lasting change. So, for example, coming to the boot camp, like there are a lot of people who might be coming from very far away places, even from closely staying people might also be coming. But this is a big step for them, like leaving their homes for that big amount of time. So this is a giant step. This might or might not change your journey, but the small steps that you take every day, putting your best every day, 10 more minutes every day. Like I made it a point if I studied 8 hours today to just study 8 or 10 minutes tomorrow so that there's some improvement. And these 10 minutes are going to add hours, are going to add days till the end of your journey. So thank you so much for watching.